I hated Crimson Desert for 16 hours straight when I first played it because of some of the game's design mechanics and choices. I already came to a point where I almost quit, but Pearl Abyss listened and gave tons of weekly updates that changed the game forever. If you left the game early and considering giving it another chance, here are the 17 biggest changes since the game was released that will make you want to play the game. Like for example, players would no longer lose contribution points whenever they steal NPC belongings in the game as long as no one saw the act. I don't know about you, but even though contribution points are easy to come by, losing 5 points when stealing, even if no one sees you, breaks the immersion really. So steal wisely and enjoy role-playing as a bandit. In my first hours in the game, it is really frustrating whenever I am accessing a door and the game automatically uses my save key. As a brand new player, I was really saving my keys, hoping to use them to unlock certain places, so I ended up not wanting to enter any door as much as possible or just hiding my keys in my stash. Just imagine what I felt there. But blessed be to the gods, as Pearl Abyss changed this flaw by requiring the player to press and hold the square button so you can unlock doors with keys. Small changes like this one improves the experience big time, even though it looks so simple at first glance. The learning progress when reading cooking recipe, weapon schematics, or even revealing merchant materials when you interact with the shop is significantly faster. Not only that, merchant wares reveal themselves all at once when you interact with the menu, rather than uncovering each material one by one. You will be dealing with hundreds of recipes and even uncover a lot of materials in vendors, so this change is saving you tons of time in hindsight. Pearl Abyss made sure that exploration would be fun and less tedious by adding more Abyss Nexus points across the map, especially in key towns and locations. Like for example, the Abyss Nexus in Greymane Camp in Hernan did not have any Abyss Nexus at all, and the nearest convenient fast travel point is locked behind Chapter 4 and requires the Focus Force Palm technique for you to unlock. And of course, a lot of players find this frustrating at first. So Pearl Abyss added a dedicated fast travel point near your main tent. At first, I thought I was imagining things and noticed that there were new Abyss Nexus pop-ups in the regions that I had already explored. But it turns out they did add more fast travel points across the map. The faction quest icons receive a subtle but noticeable change by changing their map icon to a yellowish icon while having the white color originally. I still find the faction quest icons hard to find sometimes, but it is definitely much better in the latest version of the game. I just wish that important structures and key locations had different colors as well, since having them colored in white blends with the map greatly, making the icons very hard to see, and I think they will change this as well very soon. Players can now enjoy a much faster increase in speed when fast-forwarding NPC quests or cutscene dialogues. It may sound really boring, but trust me, it makes a lot of difference. As there are a ton of mundane quests in Pywell, the revamped speed helps a ton when saving time, especially if you are farming medium bags when completing infamous fetch quests for NPCs. If you are following the channel, you know that I love to hop on my horse and just use the blinding light to scan the surrounding areas to track important items such as Abyss artifacts and locations. But in the past, you could only maintain your focus light ability when the horse was at a certain speed and not going too fast, or else it will cancel the focus light animation when you increase the speed. But in the latest version of the game, no matter how fast you want to go with your horse, you can maintain the focus light ability to scan the surroundings. This is a game changer and a huge time saver when farming Abyss artifacts, for example. As a fashion gamer myself, I understand how important our character's appearance is when exploring the world of Pywell. And the visual toggle settings for weapons, shields, and ranged weapons are a sweet change to interact with, since players will have the option to hide shields and ranged weapons when not in use, giving this very clean look of your character from a third-person perspective, which emphasizes the main weapon more than anything. Not only that, but players can also hide headgears during cutscenes or all the way to completely toggling it off, giving players the freedom to show Cliff's face without removing the actual headgear and not to lose stats in the process. Pearl Abyss added refinement tokens that players can get from various locations. What it does is, it will allow you to upgrade your weapons without the need of other raw materials aside from the said coin. But keep in mind as well that you can only use the refinement coins up to +4 refinement upgrade, and each major region has its own coins to offer, so keep on the lookout. Who wouldn't want new mounts to hunt and collect and ride them with style? Pearl Abyss added multiple mounts for players to discover, and for the sake of spoilers, I will just list them here without showing you the actual mount. That's already 6 new mounts in total for you to hunt and fun traveling with. But it is important to note that some of the legendary mounts that we are so eager to tame and keep is still not available. Like for example, the lion here in Deminis is still just a temporary mount that you can tame and keep. I have a feeling that soon enough, they will surely add them to the game as our mainstay companions. At the beginning of the game, we can all agree how limited the stamina is, making you feel powerless in combat or find the exploration very tedious because of this fact. More into exploration in just a second, but Pearl Abyss listened and reduced the overall guard stamina cost in combat, making guarding more viable and not something that you don't want to do because you find it really pointless, especially in the early parts of the game. I can clearly see and feel the difference here, since in the past, minimum strikes can break your guard. Cliff felt like an old man when guarding against attacks, since his stamina couldn't really keep up and can barely maintain his guard up. While I do understand the adjustments for some bosses, like attack animation changes and adjustments to make the combat experience feel refined and fun to engage with are necessary. However, nerfing the overall earliest bosses feels a little bit unnecessary in my opinion, since I find most of the earliest bosses are not really overtuned in any way, as long as you use a proper character build. But if you think otherwise and disagree with me and left the game because of these bosses, you might want to check the game out after the recent nerfs. One of the greatest changes in Crimson Desert is the significant flight stamina cost reduction when gliding, and I cannot stress how this improves my day-to-day exploration, since gliding felt really organic and balanced, and eliminates the need for stamina food. I can't remember how many times I drank too much wine when in mid-air just to extend my flight and cover a minimal amount of distance. But now, gliding feels super intuitive, especially if you take advantage of the Abyss travel points as a starting point and glide your way across regions. It is such a shame that Damien and Unka enjoyers can even use Axiom Force in the past. I happily can say that this shortcoming was already addressed in the current version of the game. Damien and Unka can finally use the Axiom Force for major exploration, especially when navigating rocky mountains in high locations. For those who haven't tried it, Axiom Force is a vital component of making traversal a lot more fluid and fun to engage with, allowing players to target a specific location and propel themselves upwards. Basically, it feels like web slinging in the Spider-Man series. Pair this strategy with a different traversal method, like for example gliding or the force palming boost technique, and you will never climb manually again. The latest version of the game has a newly added focus aerial roll, which will allow Cliff to gather energy and boost his regular aerial roll and cover long distances forward. If you have high stamina, this is a game changer for reaching places significantly much faster, and way cooler as well, as you can see. You can simply unlock this skill by getting the focus aerial roll next to the fully leveled aerial roll level 3. And I cannot stress how I appreciate the overall changes made over Abyss Nexus teleportation, since my gripes over this feature are one of the strongest in my entire playthrough. First things first, loading times between Abyss teleportations are significantly faster now, where in the past, I remember being able to wait too long just to fast travel from point A to B. It makes me want to leave my chair and do something else. But the biggest changes that I am so happy about are being able to fast travel while mounted, or being able to teleport on the fly with or without a mount whenever I want to, since you really don't need to completely stop just to fast travel, or even hopping off your horse just to access a certain Abyss teleportation. And as mentioned previously, little things like this are often those that makes a huge improvement on a player's experience, which is certainly the case from my end. In the latest version of the game, I can just ride my horse, jump on a cliff, and fast travel in the middle of the air, or when gliding is completely possible. Pearl Abyss, if you are watching this, promote the dev who pushed this change. But the biggest issue that I had in the game was not really some kind of a hard boss to kill or a lack of better controls. It is time to address the hardest enemy in this game, and it is inventory management as a whole. I mentioned that I hated my first 16 hours of the game, right? And believe me, as another hour passes during those first 16 hours, the inventory management in general is the one fueling my hatred towards the game. So imagine this for a second. Right at the very start of the game, Crimson Desert will already bombard you with millions of items to collect, completely filling up your tiny inventory space. Now you don't know which item is important or you need to discard to make new space, so you tend to be stressed about it. Plus the game is already bombarding you with millions of features as well, so you are already stressed about inventory management while trying to cope with the features being handed to you every minute. So no wonder, a lot of players left the game pretty early and left a lot of negative reviews. But Pearl Abyss listened and admitted they messed up and addressed this concern with an update, introducing the personal stash as early as possible so players can access it right at the very start of the game, located in Cliff's personal tent just outside of Hernan. And for those who doesn't know, you can only access your personal storage when your Greymane camp starts to operate, and that is around chapter 3 if I am not mistaken. So imagine the horrors that players went through just to access the personal storage. A big bonus as well is that Pearl Abyss made the maximum storage size of your personal belongings up to 1000 spaces in the latest version of the game, and this highly depends on your camp's level of expansion. Pearl Abyss is turning out to be one of my favorite developers as of late, and I am excited about what is in store for us in Crimson Desert. And let me know what your favorite major changes have been so far. And if you want to know the best 6 armor sets that will make you overpowered in the earliest time possible, click on this video and I will catch you on the next one.